Greetings, ZOG Langwinger, man's ass clowns, coast food, no ZOG plane here in the open air coast nut house we call ZOG Babylon, the third and final. But this particular show, as always, is aimed at the lost and found sheep of the house of Israel, and especially those of you who, are able to write in for me for United States Senate from Missouri. In case today is the 20th of October. It has turned warmer. It was very cold. It was pretty cold yesterday. And my brother, Pickle the Mother Killer, came home from South Dakota, came out here to whine the stupid crap, the same old stupid crap, but you ought to hire a lawyer. No. Pretty well my position has always been is that lawyers essentially are criminals. Lawyers are criminals. Essentially, they're criminals and parasites. Every single one of them ought to be hunted down. And pretty well, if they're not exterminated, at least made to eat their spawn's nuts. You see, if they get to where, since they can't go ahead and fend for themselves, they use the power of state to go ahead and steal from them. So anyway, today, earlier, this stupid bitch, Elizabeth Truss here, after only, 45 or so days here, being Prime Minister, 2 days before Queen Elizabeth II croaked off, thank God. And, no, she, I'm going to resign. Okay, well, fine, quit, bitch. What happened, she had the great idea, just like all so-called conservatives here. See, their idea is, essentially, is to, use the power of the state to go ahead and steal from the poor to give to the rich. And so she came up with that great idea, essentially give more money to the very self-same parasites who have gone ahead and stole it, who haven't, don't have a bit of brains on how to use that tax money other than to, well, let's give fewer of it to the poor and let's go ahead and give it to us, the rich here. Inverse Robin Hood. In fact, I mean, bad King John here. Why, hell, at least he had the virtue of, following this, same old crooked thing here. I mean, pretty well, what happens is that all these governments, in many cases, are parasitic. They're not dedicated to go ahead and helping people here at all. They're not dedicated. They're dedicated to pretty well taking from the whites and give to the non-whites. So I was looking at some of them, some of them in England. And you had a few, what little middle class there is. Now, the pound went down here, and pretty well, I think it's about $1. A pound is about $1 now here. It went downhill real fast here, and pretty much what they have is a whole bunch of rotting economic conditions here. So politically and financially, they went downhill. And what they're looking forward to is, as the winter comes here, well, guess what? They're going to be freezing to death in the Ukraine, and soon they'll be starving. And the same way in the case of Europe, and in the case of Britain, and I think in the case of the ZOG land here. What happens is that, here are these evil people in South Dakota. Brian Rio got together with Robert Conrad and essentially all the lawyers in South Dakota, the South Dakota State Supreme Court, and they decided to just simply, totally unlawfully, violate 15-16A-6, essentially give my property to Brian Rio. That's fine here. That's fine. What happens is that, guess what? After we destroy the Ahi Dam here, I think I'm going to go ahead and, in addition to making lawyers eat their spawns nuts here, no lawyer will be able to go ahead and have any property, own any property, because that's what you do, is you use the system to go ahead. So pretty well, go ahead and give their property to, well, pretty well, the state of South Dakota won't be around any longer, but maybe go ahead and let just the Indians, let the Indians go ahead and, along with the white people, in the Missouri River Valley, where Pier and Port Pier used to be, the ruins, pretty well just let it be held in common to where nobody can go ahead and graze cows or anything like that. We'll just let some buffalo roam here. You know what I mean? But what we'll have is that have a system to where, well, guess ordinary white people will end up having farms, will end up having a number of things, but in many cases here, it's going to be like, well, when things fall apart, it's going to be just like 1890s agriculture here. Of course, you'll end up having cows here, and you'll end up having railroads, and you'll end up maybe having, well, you won't have dams anymore, so maybe you'll end up having, the rivers here. You know what I mean? And so, but not where Pier and Port Pier. It needs to be turned into a, essentially not a desolate wasteland. It needs to be turned into a prairie wasteland here, like it was before these creatures came in, and then lawyers found out they could steal from stuff here. But no, I mean, contrary, I mean, the courts are absolutely corrupt here. You don't pay any attention to them. And so, go ahead and pay attention to what, pretty well what, the pigs and the rest of them want here, because, guess what? They are corrupt here. That's what you should understand, is that, guess what? The ones who are running the court system are absolutely just a bunch of corrupt lawyers here. I mean, if you're going to end up having law, you just go ahead and have the law and where it applies to everyone. You know what I mean? And pretty much given the same old parasites like in, Britain, given the same idiots who went ahead and destroyed the system and went ahead and let in all these non-whites here. I'm looking at all these Africans. And here they are, they're living fat and happy, fat and sassy, whereas, here are ordinary whites here, and they're scared to death here. What's going to end up happening is that white people end up having to become tougher. And they won't be able to rely on, quote, medical science, and certainly not on lawyers here. By the way, the big deal here is that for the last 4 or 5 days, that's what canceled the, Tuesday night, that's what went ahead and canceled the, special meeting here, about alleys and hiring lawyers and all this sort of thing, is that from what I gather, all across the ZOG land, here are all these little nippers who, were spawned during COVID, the ones who went ahead and survived the clot shots and the miscarriages and stuff like that. And guess what? They're sick, and they're getting respiratory ailments in October. You know what I mean? So guess what here? You end up having, sicker and sicker and sicker zoglings here. You end up having financial collapse here. You end up having political collapse. Senile Joe is running around, scurrying around, and pretty well everyone says, "Stay away from me, Senile Joe." Now, they realize is that the nasty hoe here, why, hey, she's just totally much tarred as well here. So, guess what? That's why you ought to go ahead, even though I think Trump is a buffoon and a crook has sit well here, but he's not pathetic like Senile Joe. And in other news here is that I'm looking at the Ukraine nitwits here, like this Aesop and all these other characters. And what happens is that the Russians merely are going ahead and buying these cheap-ass drones. These cheap-ass drone buzz bombs or whatever, which go, you know what I mean? I mean, pretty well the successor to the proven technology of the V1. And essentially it's coming on down here. It's coming on down. And it's going, it's going and hitting electrical power stations in the Ukraine. Fine by me. I like for it to go ahead and hit nuclear generating power stations in the Ukraine here. Sort of like a North Perry nuclear power plant here, you know what I mean? But in any case, charge up your phones here. Well, guess what? You'll end up having 3-4 hours here of playing, going ahead and look, playing Wordle and, internet porn and all this sort of thing here. Won't that just be wonderful here? No. And they're saying that the Russians are bringing in some Iranians. What the Iranians are supposedly doing is teaching Russians how to go ahead and play with that stuff. And I was listening to Peter Zion yap about what do the Iranians get? Well, guess what? They get a satellite. They get a satellite here because the Russians still are number one in terms of rocket motors here. You know what I mean? And so that is what you're going to have. You're going to end up having Russia. Understand is that, it's no longer 1688. It's no longer 1688 in Russia. It's time to understand that, pretty well the Zoglings here, they become Zog's bitches here. And so it's time to go ahead and turn your back on the West and pretty well make peace with Iran and with China and with the other stands here, and pretty well have their own trading block here. Just understand that Oceanus, declining Oceanus, police state Oceanus, is falling apart, going against its white, people here, taking away their property under color of law. And that's what I like about. That's what I like about South Dakota Zogling Wiggers here. I mean, hey, you'll learn to go ahead and mind your own business and not go ahead and help mongrels here, homosexual mongrels who are Zog bots like Brian Real, and you'll understand is that, hey, if my property isn't safe from you, your property sure as hell ain't safe from white people who've had enough of your shit. Look, lawyers, you go ahead and destroy rule of law, then guess what? You'll be destroyed quick enough here. You run around, oh, wait, why is this happening to me? Well, it's happening to you because you're evil, because you serve Satan. That's why it's happening to you. So anyway, that's what I wanted to go ahead and talk about real quick here. Not, this is exactly what you're seeing. Is you're seeing Senile Joe who has no idea what he's doing. They're talking about what they're doing just like with the North Perry nuclear power plant. These nuclear power plants were supposed to have been scrapped a long time ago, and either a newer one's put up or clean coal or whatever. And what they're going to go ahead and find out is that the natural gas and all the other stuff here, it should be used for industrial chemicals here, and then the coal should just simply be used for making the electricity. You know what I mean? And that you end up having a relatively clean coal, electric power plant here, which is able to not rise stuff up here. But no, this green horse shit here, all this other stuff here, supposedly Greta Thunberg here, she's all for nuclear power now. You see, she's not for just simply, all this climate change. Now, I think that there is some climate change going on. The thing about it is that the assholes who keep on doing it, they essentially want you to lower your carbon footprint while they run around in their jets and all this sort of thing, and insist that you do something and that you buy an electric vehicle here, which will last about 2 years. This battery pack here is going to cost thousands of dollars. You use a whole bunch of diesel fuel to dig up lithium, and then then when the hurricane comes here, within 2 years it'll catch on fire here, and it won't be able to be allowed out here. I mean, shoot, I just simply use my 2005 Chevrolet Venture van here. But no, folks, what you end up having is that pretty well the rest of the Russian world, the Eastern world, pretty well the rest of them are beginning to realize is that, guess what? ZOG is satanic. And what they're also beginning to realize is that, hey, there's nothing good about lawyers. Nothing good about lawyers. They're just simply thieves who are out to go ahead and live, even the best of them are out to go ahead and live as parasites off you. You know what I mean? No, not out to go ahead and do away with these lawyers here. But then again, that's what South Dakota did. As far as look, South Dakota, what you've done is that I don't care if you're a lawyer, you gotta eat your spawn's nuts. You're not allowed to own any property at all. At all. Not allowed to own any property. You go after my property with a bunch of other lawyers here, like Bridget Dietchit, and Robert Conrad and the rest. Just go ahead and take their property, along with making me eat their spawn's nuts. So anyway, that's why I like is ZOG is falling apart. And over in not so merry old England, pretty well, the stupid bitch, she was there for, she's another Margaret Thatcher. No, she was no Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher wasn't that great of a Margaret Thatcher. She went ahead and destroyed the post-war in favor of privatizing things here. And giving all the money to the rich. And what do the rich do? Well, what the rich do is they just simply grab a hold of it and don't do anything with it here. Don't do anything with it other than give the poor a little bit of pittance here to keep them alive a little bit longer in misery. So, anyway, guess what? Pastor Martin listed, I'm running under a spawn of make regime criminals eat their spawn's nuts here. Lawyers, judges, police, whatever. More and more the people they claim that they care for, they don't. It's being showed. And they're not very competent here. So it's time to have a lesser, pretty well have a lesser ZOG land to where it's broken up into 10,000 warlords. So until later, this is the 20th of October 2022. Mad Dog's Musings. You can go ahead and send some ZOG bucks if you want to me, or not. Mostly you do not. And I'll go ahead and say until next Mad Dog's Musings, hail victory.